Welcome to the Enlightened Misfits podcast, the space for entrepreneurs on a quest for unwavering certainty and purpose. I'm your host, Lauren, and each episode is a compass guiding you through authentic conversations, unraveling the mysteries of your human design chart, and offering tools from the remarkable guest. Join me as we embark on a journey to manifest greatness and create a life aligned with our deepest purpose. This is the space where misfits find their enlightenment. Welcome to the Enlightened Misfits podcast. Welcome back to the Enlightened Misfits podcast. I am your host, Lauren, and in today's episode, I have Nida. She is the mental health therapist. Welcome, Nida. So happy to have you here with us this morning. I know that you are a returning guest, so I'm happy for you to be back. So kind of tell us a little bit about where you are now and a little bit about your story and how you got to where you are as a mental health therapist.
Oh wow, that's a good question because now I'm thinking, where do I start? It has been a long journey so far. So I'm a mental health therapist and I've been running my practice in Manchester for 4 years now. And I'm going to launch soon an academy as well. So I'm in progress of, from being just a practice to a practice at an academy. But how did I get here? Well, I always knew that I wanted to help people. I always knew that I wanted to do something in the medical field, but I was never really sure what it's going to be. But I do come from a culture in which people are always curious about you. I do come from a South Asian culture in which, when you're growing up, the first thing you learn from your parents is you hear them saying, "What will people think? What will people say?" Now, me being young and naive, for me was like, well, I'm curious. How do I even know what they think? How do I even know? Because there I was 7 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old, young, and I was always curious about, okay, if I do this, what would they think? And then I would generally think about what they could think. So, when I told at school my teacher about this, she was like, maybe you should start, learning, reading more about psychology. And then when I started going to college, I wasn't even then not sure about psychology, but then slowly I started understanding what psychology is, how the mind works, and that led me to where I am today. But it has been a very challenging journey because I know that today I'm going to be talking more about my burnout and depression that I tackled. So yeah, that's where do you want me to start?
Well, thank you for sharing all that. And I'm really excited. I am really excited about what we're going to talk about today because I feel like just in general, like if you're not an entrepreneur, I mean, obviously a lot of the listeners are entrepreneurs or inspiring to be entrepreneurs, that even my own clients, I've talked to them a lot about how to using my system is human design and how to understand that. But I feel like when you first start out as an entrepreneur, or when you're moving through different you know I should say, it's always a journey. So like maybe different hard times in your life, you always feel like either one, giving up, or like, how can I get out of this? Or how can I work harder? That type of thing. And then you're pretty much just like burning yourself out. Right. So I want to kind of talk about maybe when, I don't know how long this has gone on for you, but like, when did you notice that the depression started? Or when did you notice that, like,
Yeah.
I'm just burnt out at this point? Like, what are some of the symptoms that,
Yeah.
if a listener is listening right now, that they're going through? Because I feel like there's a lot of people right now going through
Mhm.
this. I mean, I
Yeah.
personally just kind of went through a rough shadow part of my life. I haven't really spoke about it on social media yet, but I personally have gone through probably, I want to call it like the dark night of the soul. It was just like the last
Mhm.
part of it for me. But you explain your symptoms, you know, or when you noticed you were maybe like, because we all have anxiety, right? It's something that we're never going to get rid of. It's just how we can manage it better. But more of like depression is a little bit a deeper layer of that. So, what were your symptoms that you've noticed come up before you realized you
Ye-
were just burnout?
Yeah, so oh my gosh, it started actually, if we, and that's something that I realized quite later on, but it all started when my grandma passed away, and I think 2008, 2009. And for me, she was a mother figure, but I had always learned one thing, and that's suppressing emotions, staying strong.
Yeah.
Stay strong, keep fighting. It's all good. Don't cry because that means you're weak. And when she died, something in me was just frozen,
Yeah.
lost,
Yeah.
empty, yet moving on, yet moving on. And I was back then 18, almost 19. So I kept suppressing that. And then slowly at some point, there was career pressure, family asking, when are you going to get your degree? How long is it going to take? Meanwhile, there was a whole lottery system for the psychology, and there was a lot going on. There was a lot pressure. And all I knew was I have to stay strong. And at the same time, I was also working. So I was studying, I was working, I was suppressing my emotions until 2018. In 2018, I still remember it was the end of March where I had a breakdown. Now, till this point, what I used to experience is a lot of heart palpitations, and I used to go to a cardiologist regularly every 3 months. I used to see a cardiologist because they couldn't really understand where are these palpitations coming from. Why is she having these issues? Because my palpitations were, the heart rhythm was very, very fast. So it was very abnormal. But again, the cardiologist was like, we have to capture it when you have the attack, because we need to understand, is it the heart itself or is it something else going on? Now, me studying psychology, I didn't think that it's a way my body telling me, girl, calm down. Because, Lauren, I was working as a freelance model. I was doing makeup artist course. I was studying psychology. I was working at a multi-level marketing company. And I was also working as a freelance medical assistant. So wherever there was a medical assistant needed, I would receive a call in the morning or in the evening to rush to the hospital or to rush to a medical center and help the GP with the things that needed to be done urgently. So I was always on the go. Here we have a coping mechanism. I thought keeping myself busy means I don't have to answer any questions that my so-called family is asking about my career. Neither do I have to explain anything. Neither do I have to sit down and miss my grandma. You know what? I'm just going to be on the go all the time. So for the cardiologist itself, it was very hard to pinpoint because I was never telling them what was happening within me. I was never telling what was happening in my mind. So they were there to help me, yet they didn't know what was happening. So I kept on going to my appointments. We kept on doing ECGs. We kept on checking everything, kept on going back over and over again. Even a couple of times I went to the emergency as well because I thought I have an attack. I need to see a cardiologist, but they couldn't capture because when I used to get at the hospital, my heartbeat used to get normal again. Now, this used to happen because I wasn't thinking about what was triggering, but thinking more about I have to see my cardiologist,
Hmm.
see how the mind works. And I
Yeah.
feel it's just so important to share this and to talk about this because we often look at the physical symptoms and don't really dig deeper into what's happening mentally, psychologically. Now, when in 2018, I do remember it was at night, I had this attack and I felt like as if it was just the end of everything. It was very dark, scary, lonely, and there was this strange emptiness. And that was the point that I was like, enough. I need to seek out professional help. I can't do this. And that was the point that I reached out to my GP, and she then referred me to a psychologist, and it was very quick. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sure. I'm like, I have like, goosebumps. Just, I just feel like, I have a very similar story as well. And I realized when I was listening to you talk, I feel like a lot of people can resonate with, they go to the doctor, they go to a therapist, or they go to a holistic healer or something like that, and they don't explain. Well, usually when it's a healer, we kind of know, like, okay, what's going on deeper. We need to,
Yeah.
you have this problem, but there is a reason deeper. So that's not necessarily that, but like a doctor, they're just going to give you this band-aid or this pill or this
Mhm.
whatever and put that symptom, to rest. But then there's going to be something else in your body that comes up. And it's like your body is always going to remind you that you're
Yeah.
not listening, right? So
Mhm.
I love that you explained it that way, because I feel like a lot of people can definitely resonate with, um, I always feel like in my generation and just in society, I feel like it was never, it's more society, like it's more accepted by society to go to therapists or,
Yeah.
to go get help, which I do love that. But at the same time, it's just like those people that are stuck into nobody's going to understand me, or they
Mhm.
have gone to therapists. And I know that you are a therapist, but you also do holistic things too, is like
Yeah.
talk therapy never
Mhm.
works. It never worked for me. And there's a lot of other, people in society that
Yeah.
never works, because it's like you can talk about it, but
Yeah.
what are you going to do holistically to help heal it, right?
Yeah.
So now, can you kind of explain what you did and how and what you do
Yeah.
now in your actual practice to help with this?
Yeah. So basically, when my first approach, the first person I spoke with was a psychologist, and that was referred by my GP. And I just went there and I just said what I felt like I have to say. I was like, I know this is a person, this is a professional person who is trained. She knows what she is doing. Whether she's going to understand me and where I'm coming from, I have no idea. But I do know that this person knows what she is doing. So I had that trust. It wasn't easy for me because I have been always an introvert, have been always keeping things to myself. Trusting has been always an issue for me. So it wasn't easy, but I started talking to her. I have to say her guidance did help me with, because I had back then also anger issues. So she did help me with managing my anger. She did help me with distancing. So she did help me with lots of conscious work. Okay. But it still felt that we are not touching the deep rooted issue. Neither did I think back then in 2018 that it has anything to do with my grandma. I was like, it has been years. Come on. I'm okay. I've had a good cry. I'm fine. I kept saying that consciously, just like anybody else would do. So I
Yeah.
kept saying that. And then at some point, I was like, I was introduced to clinical hypnotherapy and I wanted to understand what that is. So I traveled from Amsterdam, because back then I was living in Amsterdam. I traveled from there to the UK to Hitching to learn more about hypnotherapy. And when they needed a volunteer to practice, there I was. I was like, you know what, guys, why don't we just, have me do it, or me, and let's see how it goes. And trust me, Lauren, the moment they did it, the first memory that came up was when I was 4 years old.
Uh,
And they did a regression. They took me back and I was there and we worked on a specific wound. We came back. And then again, at some point, we did another hypnotherapy session. And the more we did, the more we were working on everything that I was carrying within myself. But I just realized one thing. After those sessions, I started feeling again myself. I felt good in myself. I felt home again. I knew what I wanted, even though I was diagnosed with burnout and depression. I knew I'm not going to take those medication because they're addictive. From having the medical background, I knew what they were prescribing me, and it was a personal choice that no, I'm going to fight it. I'm going to heal myself. I'm going to look for a solution. I'm not going to continue this medication for a long period of time because I'm much stronger than that. And I always believed in the power of the mind. So I started practicing more and more hypnosis, and that helped me with switching to a healthy person than being the person who was diagnosed with depression and burnout at the same time. I have to say, when I was healed, there was a very long period that I was, so in 2019, I was healed fully. It was 1 year I was diagnosed. I did hypnotherapy and I was healed. In 2019, I do remember that there were moments that I started living in fear of what if I fall back into depression? What if I fall back into the burnout? What if I all of a sudden can't do what I'm doing now? So the fear was there and it started haunting me. Yet that was again something that I was able to tackle with EFT, with NLP. And on top of that, I have a group of colleagues who are, who offer holistic therapy, who help me with all these things. There are some friends of mine that do Reiki healing as well. And all of this, if I wasn't open for it, I would be still using antidepressants and I would be still depressed. But
Yeah.
I was open to find for a solution. I was open to look for people who were able to help me. So now in my practice, I work with people. I offer them multiple modalities based upon their needs, because some people like hypnotherapy, some people don't, some people prefer EFT. There are different modalities. So I always offer tailor-made sessions. I do make sure that I do tell people to be careful to not fall into the circle of burnout, of depression, into the darkness. And if they are there, because of my experience, I can help them out of it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I love that. And I was going to say, there's a couple things that you had touched on about, that fear. I feel like fear is so like shamed like in society, but fear is like part of the ego, right? Fear is here to protect us. Like, what happens if you didn't have that fear and that you didn't have those tools to kind of help you move out of that? I feel like, so like I feel like there's always a healthy level of fear. I know a lot of people don't believe that, but I just feel
Yeah.
like it's like the fear of like when you're a kid, if you put your hand on a hot stove, you know that you're going to burn
Yeah.
yourself. Like that is that fear that is healthy. Now you can take it to the extreme and, it could be that freeze, that fight or flight freeze cycle. But I also wanted to say too, when you said that, being open to receiving, I feel like that is huge too, because all of these holistic modalities, I feel like would not work, or you wouldn't be able to heal yourself, because I believe every human can heal themselves, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yes, there is a level of reason and, purpose for Western medicine, but it is not for mental health. Like, I don't believe
Yeah.
that at all. Like,
Yeah.
they're going to just give you a pill for your symptom, and it's like, here, take this. Now, depending on your level of if it's bipolar, or if it's like this needs to just be managed,
Mhm.
or this
Yeah.
anxiety, sure, that pill could help you to get you to where you need to go, but it's
Yeah.
not like it's like a short-term thing. It's not for years. When
Exactly.
people tell me they've been on antidepressants for years, I'm like, goodness, like that means for all of those years, all of those emotions and all of that trauma and all of
Yeah.
that stuff has just been stuck, right? So yeah, I really definitely resonate with what you said through that.
Yeah, and also all that suppressing of emotions. I always say what you don't transform will transfer,
Yes.
whether it will transfer into a physical disease or
Yeah.
it will transfer to the next generation. So it's either way going to cost you. So suppressing is a temporary solution, but at some point you need to face it, you need to accept it, you need to process it.
Right. Or ask, like, reach out and ask for help. Like, I know that
Yeah.
is very, very difficult for people to do. Like,
Yeah.
even me, as a healer, sometimes it's hard. I forget to ask the universe for help. I forget to ask for my own mentors for help. I forget to
Yeah.
ask just for help in general, right? But I know usually it's very quickly that I don't that I am resisting something, and the universe is like, okay, well, here you go. Here what I'm gonna
Yeah.
do. Here I'm gonna do this for you, and it's just like, okay, all right, okay, I can't avoid this. I'll just do it,
Mhm.
But I know it's not that easy for a lot of other people. And I'm not saying the pain. It's just more of like I've learned that I have to sit and feel the pain, and it doesn't
Yeah.
last forever. And then that's how I can transform it. But if I just avoid it, or I'm like going down this hallway, I'm like, I'm avoiding you. I'm avoiding you. That's
Yeah.
not helping either. But it all comes down to my own inner child wounds. Like, even though
Mhm.
I've healed so many of these wounds and generational trauma, and it doesn't
Yeah.
mean you come back up. There's always a different layer of stuff. There's always something else.
Yeah.
So when I say that to people, I usually look at humor as humor is very healing for me.
Mhm.
So I usually, like this past week, I was working on inner child stuff. I mean, I have, it's always something that I have to heal. And I just look at it like, oh, I look at it from a place of like, okay, so how can this help me? What is this lesson, or what is this
Yeah.
opportunity, versus like, oh shit, here we go again. Like, I don't have, it's like that
Yeah.
change in mindset of like, okay, so this is going to help me do this. Or now that I can do this, I can serve in a
Yeah.
different way with my clients. So it's not always dark. It's not always painful, but
Yeah.
healing can be very funny, right?
Yeah, and it's an ongoing thing, you know.
Yeah,
People often think, oh, once I start with therapy, I will be going forever for therapy. That's not true. That's
yeah,
not true. It
no,
really depends on what you need and when you need. And remember, life is all about healing and finding yourself, finding your authentic self. Yeah.
yes, yeah. I was gonna say also, when you said that too, like the only purpose we came down to earth is to live the human experience. And I feel like a lot of us humans, like our human side, our soul doesn't need help. It's just our human side
Yeah.
that um we forget that we're actually supposed to experience all of the emotions, all of the
Yeah.
trauma, all of everything. And then when one of my mentors had said that, I was like, "You're true. You're right." And I've avoided it for such most of my life, or suppressed it, one of the two,
Uh-huh.
and realized, oh gosh, like I've actually shorted myself my most of my life because of trying to avoid it, or trying not to feel it, or all that. So yeah. Can you
Yeah.
explain a little bit about we'll go to once you realized you were in burnout and depression, and once you've healed that, how did you use that in your practice, and how did you kind of transform it into what you're actually doing today?
Oh, that's a very good question. So, honestly, I can see when people are on an edge of burnout. See, nowadays it's being glamorized. The more you do, the multitasker you are, the many things you're doing. Oh, wow, you're hardworking. You know, all these labels that sound, for example, women are called boss babes. You know, oh my gosh, that's a boss babe. You're this, you're that. But we always forget to check in with ourselves. So within my practice, what I always do when I get a client, I always check, is this person even feeling what they're going through? Do they even connect with themselves? And, it comes actually with experience. When I ask someone to tell about their day to day activities, or what they do in a month, and what they do at work, when they start sharing that, I can easily see what's working and what's not working. I could easily see the warning signs, such as not sleeping well, such as overthinking, such as not being able to share what they actually feel. Like, for example, I have a very famous, I can't mention his name, but I've got a very famous TikToker as a client. Every time I'm like, I wish I could share his name. This should be like, just people will be like, oh my gosh. Um, and he always tells me, Nida, I feel nothing. I feel stuck and nothing. I'm making good money.
Yeah.
I am a model. People love everything they see.
Right.
And I can't get out of it because I have been in this world for 10 years. So I can't go back to corporate world, but I'm
Mm,
stuck. I'm stuck. And I don't want to tell you everything because I don't want to tell you and burden you with what I'm thinking. But all I know is I'm stuck. And he
mm,
keeps saying that. And I can clearly see that this guy, this there is burnout. He's
yeah.
not doing what he's supposed to do. He is not happy.
Yeah.
But because he is generating specific income and he can't
Uh,
fall back into the corporate world, he is stuck. So
yeah.
with everything he tells me, so he comes whenever he wants to.
Right.
He's not taking regular therapy sessions. He reaches out when he feels talking to you. But I have to tell you, Lauren, for him to even open up to me, it was, I think, 2, 3 months effort
Wow.
because he was like, I don't know if it's okay for me to share all of this with you and burden you with all these stupid thoughts that I have. Those that was literally what he was saying. And I was like, and I told him, this is my job. I'm here to help you.
Yeah.
This is what I do for living, helping others. So
Right.
you're not burdening. And building that trust was very hard because in his mind, his problems are nothing.
Yeah.
But the problems were drilling him down. So I could clearly see that he is losing himself. But because I can't do a lot. You can only do when the other person is ready.
Right.
I have kept the door open for
Yes.
communication and the connection is there. And whenever he messages me or whenever he wants to talk, I make sure that I'm there to support him. With my
Right.
experience of burnout and depression, I have learned that we often think it's nothing, it will be over soon.
Yeah.
But everything that's happening, I was multitasking back then as well. I was doing a lot. I had this belief I'm strong and I'm going to prove this world wrong. That was the thought that kept me going. But then
Right.
on the other hand, we all know as being in this field, we know what a healthy life looks like.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not, I was gonna say it's not filled with multitasking, or I mean sometimes, I mean there's like healthy levels of multitasking. I feel like I
Yeah.
can get a lot of stuff done in one day.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Somebody probably could, it could probably take them 2 weeks, right? But
Yeah.
that's just, it's, I can't do that every single day. And I feel like,
Exactly.
human design has really helped me with that too, because me being a projector and having ADHD, I'm
Mhm.
really good at what I do, but I can't do that consistently every day because
Mhm.
then I would burn out. And that's where I got to
Yeah.
burnout,
Yeah.
because I acted like a generator, my whole life. And it was, because I was raised by a manifesting generator. My dad was a
Yeah. Yeah.
projector. My mom was a manifesting generator. And it was like, if I didn't match what she did, or I was laying on the couch, or I was tired, or I was sick, or
Mhm.
whatever, I still had to operate in the same way I was supposed to. And it was just like, this is not healthy. I'm not
Yeah.
designed, literally, I'm not designed to be like this. And
Yeah.
then now, like, I could never imagine having to go back to a 9 to 5. Like, never. I mean, I do, like,
Mhm.
entrepreneurs, we do multiple different things,
Yeah.
but I was like, I would go to a different dimension before I go. I think I said this to a client, like laughing. I was like, I would have to
Yeah.
go to a different dimension before I had to go back to a 9 to 5. Like, you would have to go kill me. Like, I don't know what to,
Yeah. Yeah. And
it's like,
and
you can't go back to that type of lifestyle from
mhm.
being an entrepreneur that makes your own money, that,
Yeah.
yes, it's hard, but it's like nobody's going to tell me what I can and can't do anymore. I'm going to tell myself what I'm going to do. Obviously, it comes
Exactly.
with a lot of healing and a lot of self discipline, because if you're not doing something, you're not making money.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Yeah. Yeah. And also what I had to learn is to listen to my body
yeah,
and not to force my mind to tell my body what it needs to do.
right.
So that was something I had to learn because I was fully in control of my mind and
Yeah.
my mind was not in control of me.
Right.
And that's something that led me to burn out combined with depression. Yeah.
I was going to say, yeah, I definitely, I love that you said that too, because I feel like some people don't have control of their mind as much as I feel like they want to. But as long as you have control of your mind, then, your body, it could go. I mean, obviously, body, mind, spirit all goes together. But,
Yeah.
I feel like once you get control of your mindset and stop allowing your mind to run your life, like you said, then
Yeah.
you can kind of shift into you personally are in control of your life. Because I feel like
Definitely.
most of the time we feel like as kids, our parents controlled us, society controlled us. We have to do this, we have to live in fear, but it's more of like, no, I get to decide what I want to do with my life. So
Yeah.
yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Definitely.
So can you kind of share a little bit about, what you like a couple of, if you would like to, you don't have to, a couple of the new things that like new programs that you are, more of like your academy, and
Yeah.
what do you want to talk about your book? We don't have to talk about your book.
Sure. There is a lot going on.
Okay. I said we don't have
So
to talk about this.
there's a lot going on. So I am going to be launching my podcast soon in September. So that's one thing that I'm launching. Second thing that I am going to be publishing my book as well. I'm doing my best to publish it this year. My book is going to be all about my journey, my struggles with depression, burnout. It's going to be more a help kit, a toolkit for people who are on the edge so that they can, learn from it, try techniques at home. So that's one thing. And yeah, the third thing that I'm going to be doing is I'm launching my academy this year, in which I will be training people to be mental health professionals and start their own practices, offer therapy sessions with different modalities such as EFT, NLP, life coaching, EMDR, Silva Life System, and lots of other modalities. So I am in transition. I don't have a starting date of the academy yet because there's a lot that needs to be done behind the scenes.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
manuals need to be ready, recording. But the best thing about this is I have recently passed my exam as a trainer, level 6. So I've got now my second degree in my pocket, which means each and every person that's going to be qualified through my academy will get an international accredited diploma. So they can start wherever they want in the world with their practice. And I'm really grateful for this because I can't be the right therapist for everybody. But I do know if we train more people in becoming coaches, in becoming therapists, we will be able to make this world a better place.
I love that. And that just makes my heart so happy because it's like this huge thing. And I know you've been working on this for a very long time.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
like, yeah. So it's like, I hopefully when this podcast comes out, or when its episode comes out, that they, I'll make sure they'll be able to connect with you. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of listeners listening that have that call to do something like that. So
Yeah.
I want to make sure that they can, if they want to investigate or they want to kind of research what, working with you or working through your academy would look like. Hopefully, I feel like everything lines at the right time. So,
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
It's just magical how it works. But also, would like to say for the audience, if I've been very quick through the whole burnout and depression thing. If you still have a question or you still want to know something, um, just send me a message. I'm happy to tell you what you want to know, but because I definitely want to share this with as many people as I want. And I decided to talk about this topic on your podcast because I know we have people here who believe in healing. We have people here who are entrepreneurs, so this is the right audience. So if there is any question, feel free to reach out.
A lot of people that have healed from burnout too. Actually, a couple. I don't know if you've seen the interview pod. It was a face or Instagram live that I did with my own client. That she's been a long time client of mine, and she, started out not even realizing she was burnt out. But that's also how my story started too. That I thought I was supposed to do all this stuff and realizing all of my physical symptoms were related to not my postpartum, not my
Mhm.
anxiety, not my depression, not my, my PTSD or
Mhm.
PTSD. Like none of that mattered. It was all burnout. Like it was like I was constantly operating on this like energy of I can't keep going. Like
Yeah.
something's gonna happen. I'm gonna like just fall over. Literally one day,
Yep.
just fall over. You know, that's because that's literally what it felt like. And you're right when you said, you ask your clients how they feel. Because I think there's so many therapists that ask me how I feel, and I could not even explain it to them because I
Yep.
wasn't feeling. Like it was like, what do you
Yep.
mean? How do I feel?
Mhm.
My superpower is suppressing emotions. Like, what do you now? You want me to tell you how I feel?
Yeah,
Right?
or
Yeah,
the first thought that comes into your mind is, do you even care? Why does it matter to you?
right. Yeah, I've had those
That
thoughts.
that happens as well. That happens when people have numbed their emotions for so long,
Right.
even if they see a therapist, they start believing there is no point in sharing.
Right. Yeah.
That
Or using substances like alcohol, drugs,
yeah.
whatever. Mine was like mine were all about relationships. So it was like, what next relationship can I get into to numb this? I mean,
Mhm.
there's a
Yeah.
short period of my life that I used alcohol to, kind of suppress when I would start to feel it. It was more of like
Yeah.
through my healing journey, which is now I don't even drink anymore. Not that I can't, it's not, but I just
Yeah.
don't like that feeling. It takes me back to what am I avoiding? Like I ask
Mhm.
myself, Lauren, what are you avoiding
Yeah.
that you need to drink alcohol? Or what are you avoiding that you can't go for a walk or do yoga or talk to somebody or whatever? So it's like
Yeah.
I just have to, it's that level of trust. And with, when you start to trust yourself, you have to question, you have to ask yourself questions like, why am I
Yeah.
doing this? What
Yeah.
am I avoiding? Most of the time, it's me avoiding different things.
Ye-
Me anyway.
Yeah. And there's one more thing, what also used to happen with me, which I find till this day, I'm like, wow, there used to fall tears from my eyes all of a sudden, but I used to feel nothing. So
Mm,
there I'm working and my tears are just falling from my eyes. And I should never understand what's going on. I'm not having an allergic reaction.
yeah.
I'm not feeling anything, but why are these tears falling from my eyes? And that used to happen as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I do know there's another question. If the listeners too, somebody said to me, I think I was at Lily's karate and I was just talking to another mom and she had said, what do you do? And of course I was talking to her about it. And she said to me, I don't remember my childhood. And I just
Yep.
the immediate thought that I had was, you have a lot of childhood trauma. That's what I was thinking. I didn't say that. I think she said
Mhm.
I didn't say much. I was very quiet. But
Yeah.
people that tell me, and if you're listening to this and you cannot remember things of your childhood, it's most likely because you have a lot of childhood trauma that your body has to protect you has suppressed so deep that it's there to your ego and your wounding is just there to protect you. But there at some level in time and spiritual awakening or whatever in your journey that you're at, it's sometimes it you can't keep doing that forever.
Mhm.
It will eventually come up and it will look like anger, it will look like aggression, it will look like you hate yourself, it
Yeah.
will look like all this different stuff, and it's all of that stuff that was placed upon you. So I feel like I needed to say that too, because like you said, you didn't
Mhm.
feel it. But people that can't
Yep.
even remember their childhood, that's why, if inner childhood healing or just any type of hypnosis that takes you back to your childhood self. Because I always
Mhm.
tell people, and I say this to Joey too, I'm like, look, we are all just kids, just in adult bodies. We still have our inner child. So if I
Mhm.
get angry, I act like a child, like that's because I still am a child. I still have my inner,
Yeah.
it doesn't go, people are like, doesn't go away. Like you have fun and you
Yeah.
like joy and you like
Hmm.
to do fun things or whatever. That is a child. Like that's a childlike energy. It's not calling you a child. Like we're adults now,
Yeah.
right? But when we have breakdowns, when we have tantrums, when we, like I say, like why adults are allowed to have tantrums, like
Hmm.
we are still like we're that's still healthy.
Yeah.
It's not like, I was like, I hate that society makes it seem like, oh, you're an adult now, you need to act this way. It's like, no, not
Hmm.
really, because
Yeah.
kids just pick up what their parents are doing. So if like I'm crying or I'm upset and I'm explaining to Lily, right, that it's okay to cry, she's going to be like, well, that one time I see my mom cry, that's okay, versus us hiding it, right, from our kids. And
Yeah.
that's keeping that generational stuff. Or when she has a tantrum, I let her have a tantrum because she's allowed to have a tantrum because she can't get, I don't know, maybe ice cream at 8 a.m.,
Yeah.
whatever she's having a tantrum about, right? And then I
Yeah.
ask her if she needs a hug. That is it. If that little bit of like, do you need a hug?
Hmm.
And I don't take on, I let her have her tantrum. And, I've learned this obviously of over time, plenty of times failing, let her have her tantrum. I wait in the room for her. Like I'm still there.
Yeah.
And then I ask her if she needs a hug. But because I remember when I used to have tantrums or I was upset or I was dealing with emotions that were adults' emotions, like anger, and I didn't know what was going on because I was 4 or 5 or 6, that my parents would always leave. Or they would
Yeah.
always tell me to go to my room. And I always had to deal with all of those big emotions that I had no idea what they were,
Hmm.
and I had to deal with them in myself. And then I just eventually just suppressed other people's emotions that weren't mine. Whereas in my anger, all of the adult problems. And I realized a lot of my stuff that I'm going through now, most of it's not even my emotions. It's
Yeah.
somebody else's, or it's something from childhood. And I'm
Hmm.
not saying that my parents
Yeah.
are bad for that. They were not aware of it, but it's just like I think a lot of people would resonate that, they were also in that situation as kids too, because, if they just had that one person that would be there, do you need a hug? I feel
Yeah.
like now, if anybody asks me, do I need a hug and I'm having a bad day? Yeah, I want a hug. Give me a hug. Yeah, give me a
Yeah.
hug. All right. Is there any other last thoughts that you wanted to say to the listeners? Also, how can besides, I'll make sure your links are in the description box, but how can the
Hmm.
listeners get a hold of you? Where can they
Yeah.
find you?
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram under the name ltc.therapist. And you can also have a look at my website, which is www.luminostransformationalcoaching.com. And before we end this amazing meeting, what I would like to say to the audience is start practicing to sit by yourself. Pay attention to what you tell yourself when no one is watching, when no one is listening. And then once you have done that, listen to your body. What is your body trying to tell you? And the day you start getting a hold of this, that's when your healing journey will begin. Thank you.
Love, love, love that. So thank you so much for joining us on today's episode on the Enlightened Misfits podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe. You can leave a review and share with somebody that you feel that will gain knowledge from listening to today's episode. Stay tuned for more captivating conversations in the future. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and I will see you next time. Thank you for joining us on another enlightening episode on the Enlightened Misfits podcast. If you are a current or inspiring to be fempreneur, suffering from the fear of being seen and or feel very triggered when you're building your business, reach out to me at the Mermaid Light about my Rich and Resilient Biz Baddies. This is a collective text message Voxer support group designed to help you heal your triggers and turn imposter syndrome into bad bitch energy. If you resonate with our conversations and insight, don't forget to subscribe, rate the show, and leave a review. Your feedback fuels our mission. Remember, your journey to unwavering certainty and purpose is ongoing. So please make sure you stay connected with us on social media. Keep manifesting greatness in your life. Until next time, this is Lauren from the Enlightened Misfits podcast. Stay enlightened, stay inspired, and keep manifesting your extraordinary path.